Kyle here from All Media Reviews, here to do more of the vinyl collection A to Z, now into the letter W. This is number 30, either 33 or 34. I think 34 actually. But I'm going to try tackling this whole thing, hopefully get through this in about 20 to 25 minutes. So, the first one I have is The Warning. Now, spoiler alert, that's not the only Warning record I have now, but the only one I had when I started this project. So this is their 2022 full-length, their third album, which I picked up just a couple months ago and got the girls to sign it, Air, all in capital letters. Great record, one of my top, whatever it was, 10 some records last year. It was the Mayday EP, basically, they released in 2021, plus a bunch of new songs. My favorites, Money, Animosity I love, Choke, Disciple, the title track. There really aren't any bad songs on here. The ballads are just but for the most part, I mean, you know, I still need to spend time with their other records, which again, I'm picking up more and more. But I still think this is my go-to. Now, they're working on a new record, The Warning, the girls in The Warning from Monterrey, Mexico. They just were on the MTV, the VMAs, and you know it's probably going to come out next year. They just put out a new song this summer called what's it called? Change, I forget it. The Warning fans would kill me, but it's a little different. It's a little call it poppy. It's not. What is it? What is it called? Damn it! It's going to bug me. But anyway, so not The Warning, but Warpaint. And I've got a pretty sizable collection that is not in chronological order exactly. So when I ordered these alphabetically, I just did them, just a baseline for them. But here we go. Oh man, because I have, you know, I've been pretty loyal to this band. I've liked them really since the get-go. But yeah, here we go. All right, this is a different. That was that remix, yeah. Yeah, you think I'm like a super fan, which I am. They were just here last weekend, but they were opening for, like I mentioned on that blog, Death Cab, Postal Service hybrid at not the Fillmore, but the other new club in downtown Minneapolis. But anyway, this is Warpaint. This is their debut EP, which on vinyl. It's one of the earliest vinyls I bought. I think I bought this even before I knew my wife, possibly. The thing is, there were two versions of this EP. I've got both of them on compact disc. But one of them includes the track Crimson with a K. I don't know if it was a King Crimson element. But, doesn't say on here. But anyway, this came out in 2000, in effect 2008. You know, I think, again, another version of it came out in 2009. Like, the first two times I toured, I saw them, they were touring basically in support of it, because they hadn't put out their first full-length. But Warpaint, the four-piece, all-female band. Just like The Warnings is an all-female band, but it's three-piece, the four-piece. I always thought the two bands should do a tour together. They may at some point. They're not... The Warnings more hard rock, and, you know, they're by Metallica and that kind of stuff. And Warpaint are more psych and... I don't know, art rock, you could say. They had connections to the Mars Volta, and they're dream pop at times, but they're a great band, and I love them, great live, but it's been many years since I've seen them, unfortunately. They weren't even headlining last weekend, but that's Exquisite Corpse, which I didn't even talk about it. It has Billie Holiday, it has that one that's like an a cappella thing, like a call and response, but it has Elephants, Crimson, it's dreamy. It's the dynamics are great. There's a reason why I got into them. I always thought of the song by Rush, of course, when I got in them. I was like, I wonder if they're Rush fans. So here's their debut album, which came out in 2010 on Rough Trade, titled "The Fool," which, you know, at the point they did Exquisite Corpse, they had a different drummer, Josh Klinghoffer, and then they had a couple different drummers, but the Stella Morgawa, who's like from Australia, I believe. She joined for this album, has been their drummer since. But this has Undertow, which was like an indie darling pop hit. I mean, it is poppy, and I still love it. But the rest of this record, the self-titled song, Bees, Composure, Majesty. It's it's very moody music, and they kind of when they went and started doing more of that on this than on the debut of Exquisite Corpse, they tended to kind of find their sound to a point where it's mesmerizing, but I don't get bored with it. I don't get lost in it, or I get lost in it in a good way. I mean, are they prog? They're not exactly, but they're definitely artsy. They're not your run-of-the-mill girl band. They're not your run-of-the-mill indie band, whatever. They always reminded me of some of the more dreamy Pink Floyd. That's the closest prog connection I can. Although the Mars Volta connections also, they're the sister of is it Teresa or Jenny. I think Jenny's sister is actress who was their original drummer, I believe at one point, or was the drummer at one point. She also, I think, dated someone from the Mars Volta. That was part of it. It wasn't Omar or at least there was connections with the Mars Volta. Maybe he'd played. I forget. I haven't read. I mean, I used to know this like to the letter. But anyway, that came out in 2010. Maybe it's one of the guys from the Mars. Again, someone played with the Mars Volta, like mixed and played drums. I mean, this guy Josh Klinghoffer. That's the guy I'm thinking of. But he has a connection, I think, to the Mars Volta. Anyway. So that was 2010. Then I think it was 13 or 14. They put out their self-titled album, and sadly, I never got totally into this, although I've kept it. To me, it sounded like I got all the signatures on this one. I can't remember if I got it, I pre-ordered it, but after loving, the debut AP, Exquisite Corpse, and The Fool. But this Disco Very is my go-to on this album, but I don't know, I probably need to go back to it, and, because some of the stuff that they put out since hasn't varied dramatically, but I always felt like a lot of the songs just were not fleshed out enough for me. There weren't enough of sort of those moments that I love, but I don't know, it's been many years since I've listened to this. I think it was 2013, but I don't know, I have to look at this quickly. I'm trying to oh, that's right, I was given, that's what this was like not a poster, but what do you call this? The thing I got from Kimbra around the same time. Hylograph or whatever it's called. Why don't you put in the year on your release there, ladies? It doesn't tell, It's it was either 2013 or 2014. I kind of think it was 2013. Because I know 2013 was one of those weird years where I thought, like, everything that came out, nothing, like, blew me away, and I thought, well, maybe it's going to be the new Warpaint album. It's a cool gatefold. I don't know, I've never done a full video on them, and I haven't really done that much. I did the review of Local Natives, so maybe I would probably show more detail about the vinyl and everything, because this doesn't have a year. I'm like 90% certain that this came out in 2013, but, I'll put it in the comments in the description box when I'm done here and get through all the W's. Of course, this is not cooperating as quickly. Yeah. So that was this was their second official full length. It doesn't want. I know that part of the with Warpaint was they're based in Southern California, but some of the members at one point were in like Seattle or Portland, in the Pacific Northwest. So I've got 2 copies of this record. The other one's up here, but this is Heads Up, which was 2016. It was also on Rough Trade. This has New Song, which again, like Undertow, kind of was, some of the fan base don't love like when they go pop, and I personally loved it. It's very hooky, very catchy, very energetic. And I tended to like this album more because I wasn't really that into the self-titled album from a few years before. So, but yeah, this is 2016. Heads Up. Like I said, the other one I think is a promo though, so I'm not sure I'm going to be giving that away in a contest. So then what came out for Records Today was a remix. It's like remix versions, different artwork of The Fool. So I could have just shown this with this, but this was 2021. I think it was Record Store Day, I'm pretty sure. And this was hard to find. I remember like initially I could not find it. It took me maybe almost a year to find it. I found it sometime 2022. But yeah, I mean, I haven't listened to it. I think I listened to a couple tracks online, but interesting artwork, compared to, say, the original. I like the original artworks. Oh, it's got here. I actually got this on eBay. That's why I was kind of getting frustrated by this. I know a lot of the fans love this this remix that was done. So I'm not sure if some of the songs, if I remember correctly, are a little more extended and they have little like added sections, or if it's just literally a mastering and just see, the word remix has always been, it can be interpreted more than one way. So and then I finally did after a while too. I have this habit of like not getting their records when they come out, but I couldn't find this. I did find it initially and I put it back, but this is their album from 2022. So I picked up both in 2022 or picked up the remix back in 21. I don't remember, but Radiate Like This, which I would put this. I mean, I don't know if I'd put this above on Heads Up. But, I mean, in some ways, it doesn't have anything as sort of memorable as New Song, but at the same time, I really, every time I went back to it, I enjoyed it more. So yeah, I mean, I guess stylistically, does it vary that much? No, their style, they've kind of, after their initial EP, they've kind of found their sound, and their sound has been, for the most part, I mean, I guess in that sense, if you've never heard Warpaint, you could listen to really any of their albums, and you'd get an idea what they sound like. Other than it's a couple of the songs like New Song and Undertow, which are more overtly pop. So, all right, moving on, trying to get through the W's here. So, I only have one album, and I paid $4 for this, from Roger Waters. Roger Waters' solo stuff I've really not pursued because I've never found it to be that amazing, because it's like sort of like an extension of Final Cut and The Wall. But I do have Radio Chaos. I found this for $4. It may have been on a sale at Half Price Books back in 2012. So I know he has I've seen pros and cons of Hitchhiking and then Amused to Death, and I literally have seen 5 different takes on his solo career and I know he put out a record a couple years ago too. Not Rattle That Lock, because I know David Gilmour did too, but it may have been Rattle That Lock. I don't remember. I've always struggled with his solo career, but I've seen different people say, well, no, this is the one that's the best. The other ones aren't as good, you know. I always thought that Pros and Cons was the one that people leaned toward the most. That was the debut, but this came out, I think, 83. So it was like 83 or 84. It wasn't that much, like, his first couple, let's see. It was in the 80s, I think. It was 87, okay. So Pros and Cons may have been 83. It was only a year or two after the Final Cut, but this is 87. So, let's see here. Yeah, this would actually tell me when I bought the Fool remix. This would have been, yeah, it was September of 21. So I don't think I bought this online, but I've had this history with Warpaint. Their fans are like kind of rabid with getting their vinyl and everything like that. And I can imagine the show that was a few weeks ago would have been pretty rabid with the Postal Service and Death Cab. So I've got only one Weird Al Yankovic. He could go under Y, I suppose. He can go under A, well, pretty much either Y or W, so it's Weird Al. This is one of, I think I mentioned that this is one of my first, I have the tape here? No, it's not there. I have the Final Cut right there, actually. One of the first cassette tapes, one of the first albums or music I ever bought. I think it was the second one after the Rocky 3 soundtrack, which I also have on vinyl. So I have a ton of sentimental, nostalgic value to this record in 3D. This was his second album. I don't remember what the first one was called. I know Dare to Be Stupid, I think, came right after that. But I know these songs like the back of my hand. I listened to this a ton when I was like 7, 8, 9 years old. Brady Bunch was the one that I knew, and then Eat It, of course, that was getting a lot of radio play. The Michael Jackson Beat It, and the video, of course, on MTV, and Friday Night Videos, the parody. But Buy Me a Condo, I lost on Jeopardy, of course. Mr. Popel, That Boy Can Dance. I revisited this last year, and I have to admit, That Boy Can Dance is up there among my favorite songs he ever did. Nature Trail to Hell. And what was the theme from Rocky 8? Ride of the Kaiser, which, I'm not sure if that's it, because I know he did Ride of the Kaiser, but I don't remember that on this album. I know that song, but yeah, this was 83. It came out, it was 84 actually. I thought it was 83. Well, anyway, it came out within a year of the time that Thriller came out. Because I bought Maybe I bought. Cause I said it was one of the first tapes I bought. Maybe I bought Thriller first because I got Thriller when I was a little kid too. Eventually got Purple Rain too, but I had a friend that always talked about the song The Brady Bunch, especially. Buy Me a Condo is like a Bob Marley kind of thing. Polkas on 45 is really interesting. A lot of those songs I'd never heard before, and the Beatles parody, little snippets of 45 like singles. Just it was like it's a total like medley, a polka medley with of course accordion. So Rick Derringer plays the guitars and mandolin on some of this stuff. He must have been on Eat It, I would guess. But yeah, this is a terrifically fun album, and I'll never get sick of it. Cause I'll probably always remember those songs till I'm dead. Anyway, so I only have one record on vinyl from this band, although this is one of their key albums at least. Yeah. No, I have two. I take that back. I may have more than two. No, I have just the two. No, it's only one. This isn't okay. So this is Weather Report. I mean, they have a lot of albums, but this is Mysterious Traveler, one of their classics. Although this is not with Jaco Pastorius. This had Alfonso Johnson on bass, who's a fantastic bassist himself. Wayne Shorter and Joseph Zano were the staples of Weather Report, but came out in '74. I don't know if this is the first pressing, but I paid $3 for it. I mean, I Need to Get Heavy Weather and Mite Passage, and then the live and unreleased potentially one or two of the live albums. Those would be my sort of key to seek out Weather Report. But they have, I don't know, they put out 10, 15 plus albums over like a 15-year span, some with and some without Jaco Pastorius. But anyway, this was '74, so I don't know. Jaco was with them, or maybe this is before he was with them, because I thought that Alfonso Johnson joined them after. My Weather Report history isn't perfect. I remember when Wayne Shorter passed away, it was earlier this year, last year, I was watching some stuff online talking about the history of Weather Report. When Joseph Zano, of course, passed away a few years back. It's sad to see. So this is, I thought this is Weather Report, but this is Fusion. This is Lenny White, of Return of Forever, and I think he played with Miles, like a lot of those guys at one point. But this is his album. It's called Big City. It came out, I think it might be one of the later ones, '77. So it's still within that realm of where Fusion was still a really big deal. I've never listened to it though. I mean, I paid 49 cents for it, so I haven't gotten round to it. But of course, a jazz fusion record, jazz in the '70s. It has Neil Schon from Journey. And Brian Auger, I know that was on organ, so he didn't really play any standards. Oh, Jerry Goodman's on it. So, okay, I'm just looking at the different songs. So, Jerry Goodman and Jan Hammer, so you have a lot of Mahavishnu Orchestra on this. Herbie Hancock's on a track. I want to say Lenny White has an album that I really love, another one that I saw. It's got really cool artwork, but I didn't buy. I almost bought it at Half Price Books a couple of years back. I want to say it was like 2019, 2020. But, yeah, this is one I probably should give a go, although, haven't had any revelations exactly, but with any fusion records of some of these that I've got, but, the Stanley Clarke stuff and the David Sanchez record I showed the other day. Alright, so I've got two records from this band. They have several others. I think that's just the two, yeah. And this is White Denim. A band that I saw on the bill with the Deer Hunter and one other band. And when this album came out, I think it was 2011, I was really thinking I was going to get totally into them, although they were compared to some jam bands, kind of like Humphreys McGee, the mentality. They were doing prog, but a jam band element. This is D. This is the one. It has the song one At the Farm. At the Farm that's a banger. So I had this other one. I think they had this at, I don't know how much I paid for it. This is Fitz? An interesting title. This came out a couple years before because D was 2009. But remember when I saw them, they had, when I got into them rather, they had a pretty extensive catalog and they've put out several records since. And they were listed as prog, and that's why I was kind of pursuing them, and I liked some of the D record, and I saw them on the bill. They were with someone else, Mute Math or someone else on a bill as well. But then I kind of got bored with them, and so unfortunately, and I know they had some stuff happen with some of the members, and it was short lived, unfortunately, my relationship with them. But I still like some of the stuff on that D record, especially. I don't know. I may eventually get more into them. I know they had an album called Corsica Lemonade, and one that came out last year. I'm thinking it's gonna click with me, but didn't. So, all right. So I've only got on vinyl these 3 records from this band. This is the Who collection. So I have an original pressing with the booklet, paid less than $11 for, Quadrophenia, which is my #1 album from the Who. I like some of their other records quite a bit. I have some of their records on CD, but if push comes to shove, this is my go-to. It's 4 sides, 4 songs written by the 4 different members, and they're featured different members. Rain Over Me, is a favorite of mine. The Real Me. I love the synthesizer work that Townsend did on this. Dr. Jimmy. It's a great concept album. I think it pulls off somewhat in a similar vein what The Landlines Down Broadway was. I like it better than Tommy. I don't have Tommy on vinyl, although I still like Tommy, but instrumentally it's superior in a lot of ways. So it's kind of the concept of this kid who is trying to find himself, which side he wants to join. He's a sort of where does he fit in? The mods or the rockers? I forget. And first you have in the the soundtrack, and then the movie later, which I also have the soundtrack. That came out in '73, Quadrophenia, and the soundtrack for the movie was 1979 or '80, I want to say. But the soundtrack is, not identical, but very similar, although it has James Brown, some other people on here, the Ronettes, so Ronnie Spector, but, and I think that the movie for Quadrophenia is superior to the movie for Tommy. So in every way, I think Townsend topped himself when he made Quadrophenia, both on the album and the film. It also has Sting as the bellboy, of course. If you've never seen it, so there's 2 endings, I think, because the ending's a little bit bleak in one sense, but what happens at the end, a little bit like the end of Brave. Which, of course, Clutching at Straws, I always hear that little there's parts of that are in Clutching at Straws from Marillion that are also basically they borrowed from the Who. I don't know if Mark Kelly or Fish, whoever came up with that idea for that. I forget what song it is. White Russian maybe, or Slate Math. I think of Slate Math. Anyway, I have a picture disc of Who Are You, which I think this was a record store item, but it was $10 at Eclipse in St. Paul. I've been there in a while, but they closed and reopened. But this has You Better You Bet. That's the song. I think it's You Better You Bet. No, it has the title track, of course. But this was later Who. I want to say it was 78, but I believe this is before or after Keith was gone. I'm looking at... No, he's on this. I'm pretty sure this is before Keith's... Well, he's on the cover. What am I thinking? Of course. But I know they did a little bit of music. They've done some music since, but I don't remember the timing, because him and John Bonham both died within, it was a year and a half of each other. It's sad, but this is more synth-driven, this album. But again, this is a picture disc, so when am I going to listen to it? I don't know. Of course, it has the Who the Bleep Are You, the profanity that some of the radio stations didn't bleep out. So, all right, moving on to W's. That was the Who. Now we have Steven Wilson. So I've got select albums from him. I think this came after that. So I've got The Raven That Refused to Sing. Even though I can't. People don't realize that there's the first 2 songs, the riffs, basically, or there's 2 songs on here that sound like a Kevin Gilbert song and a Sabotage song, but it's a really good record. It is Steven doing retro-sounding prog in some ways, but with an updated sort of production on Queso from 2013. Yeah, we talked about that on the prog stream on Sunday. I don't know. I like a lot of his other records, but I've just found that this was... And in 2013, like I just mentioned a little while ago with the Warpaint record, 2013 was one of those years where there weren't any like obvious over-the-top like albums. This year's been that kind of way too, to an extent, unfortunately. So this by default was like my number 1, number 2 record for a while. It didn't ultimately end up number 1, but it was in my top 5 the whole year, and it still probably is. We'll find out when I do 2013. So, and I did buy the Watchmaker, or the Luminal single. The thing is this actually signed? Maybe he signed this, because I don't remember him signing it with me. That would have been more meaningful. But this comes with a demo version. Guitar played, yeah, March of 2012. Anyway, Luminal and the Watchmaker. The demo version of the Watchmaker, which is 12, whatever. But I mean, it's darker in some ways. It's more melancholy. It's in some ways this album, The Raven, and these songs carry some of the whole Porcupine Tree element of melancholy, or even Blackfield to an extent. So I have To the Bone. I know people love Hand Cannot Erase, and someday I probably will pick it up. I just been sort of reluctant to, but I felt like when this album came out, I love it when he does some pop music. Permeating is that pop track, but it also has a bunch of proggy songs like Detonation. Pariah's good, it's catchy. Same Asylum as before. I found myself more addicted to this album than Hand Cannot Erase. Not dramatically. I love a lot of Hand Cannot Erase too, but it was more just sort of, earwormy, I guess, from 2017, I believe it was. Yep, To the Bone. Of course, there's the line from the Oceanside song they keep on mentioning, To the Bone. And then I have this, which was a record survey item from 2018, it was just the next year. How Big the Space, which I want to say this to People Who Eat Darkness, the Nanette Tayeb, her version of that it has on the B-side, but I haven't listened to this. I mean, it's probably online. I think this wasn't on To the Bone, and it didn't end up on The Future Bites, I don't believe. How Big the Space is not on. So this is really just a B-side and an unreleased track. And that was kind of part of my motivation. And I like the artwork. I can't remember how much it was, but anyway. It's 12-inch. Alright, so I showed this when I was showing Peter Ostrushko. I showed this thing. This is Wise McGraw. I put it under Wise because Wise is the first name. But yeah, Dean McGraw, local musician. Folk, Celtic, jazz, fantastic, jam bandist, classic blues rock, musician locally, and Marcus Wise, the tabla player. It came out in 85 on Red House Records, but from Dean, I got him to sign it. One of the earlier Dean records, maybe the earliest Dean record I have actually, because I don't think I have any of his 70s stuff. So, all right, this is the only album I have from this band, I believe. I have a lot of singles. This is Wishbone Ash, and by most people's take, their signature record, Argus, which has Sometime World, which is, it sounds like almost like Jug Band Yes to me. It's totally happy and catchy and energetic. But the whole record I've always liked. I haven't explored Wishbone Ash that much, but this has always been sort of their signature record. I know the touring site versions of them. They were here and I didn't go back in the spring. My friend had tickets and we didn't go, but yeah, there's like 2 different versions. I saw them live a couple times, but yeah, it's a fun record. This, of course, looks like the precursor to Darth Vader. So this pressing is, I know this record was not easy to find. This doesn't even have Martin Turner on it. It's weird. I looked for this record for many years and could not find a reasonably affordable copy, but I finally did. And then what happened was, like Adam Hart-Mother from Pink Floyd, I found it. I ended up seeing it many times over the next year or two when I bought this. What year did it? Doesn't have a year on it. 2013 maybe. I know I was looking for it because I was like, well, I need it. If I'm going to get any Wishbone Ash, it has to be Argus, which was I think 70. I should have looked at that. 72 or 73. 72. Yep. All right, so I have a bunch of records from this band who have one signature record for me. Was it 4? No. Okay. So this is my Wolf Parade collection. This is their debut. Well, I think this is a debut EP, maybe. Yep. It's just a self-titled. Basically it's Sub Pop. $10. Yep. Which I have not listened to in ages. I have it on CD too. When I was really into Wolf Parade, I probably listened to it a bunch. This is the debut album, which some people consider their sort of signature. I think it's called something Mary. Apologies to the Queen Mary. This is 2000. those are the same year actually. So they put out the EP, the self-titled EP, and which you look at them, there may be some crossover. They're not the same, but there's a crossover on the track list. I mean, I'm not the most fanatical like religious Wolf Parade fan, but they're from Canada. The post-punk, indie, alternative college rock with a little prog leanings. This is the album that got me into them. I'd heard about them before that. This is At Mount Zoomer from 2008. That song, Kissing the Beehive, is absolutely progressive rock. Even though, the vocals are a little weird, a little odd, a little kind of Tom Waits-ish, but they're, they take a little bit of I mean, not everyone's going to like the vocals at first, but if you stay with it, that's a track you may become addicted to. The way that song never ends. It's almost like the perfect element from Pain of Salvation, the title track. California Dreamer's the other real big go-to on this album, but I remember this album when I got into it. I got into it toward the end of the year. I don't remember when it came out in 2008, but it ended up in my top, 15 records after really not being a fan. I thought they were just a hipster band, but totally got won over. They put out like 2 or 3 records since. They had a little hiatus. They haven't really done the prog stuff the way they did it on this album since. The first album is pretty good, but it's not as good as that, so... Alright, that's Wolf Parade. So I have one album from this band, which is kind of sacrilege because it's one of their least thought of records. This is their second album. This is the band Wolfmother from Australia, of course. And I remember when I got this, and I checked out it on CD. I downloaded it. I can't remember. Cosmic Egg. This came out in 2009. The debut, self-titled debut, was totally channeling Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, but in a fun way. I never got totally repulsed by them the way people are by Greta Van Fleet or even Crown Lands. I liked a bunch of the songs, The Joker and the Thief, and they were just playful, isms. They wrote these fun kind of retro sounding songs. This album sounds more like Rush to me than Zeppelin, but that was my feeling back then. But I know Andrew Stockdale's done a solo album, which they haven't really changed their sound from the stuff I've listened to since, but I bought this. I only paid $10. In fact, I think I paid it was discounted because this was out at the old Discland in Bloomington when they were just getting rid of all their stuff in their sales. So, anyway, so the final W, my only record from this artist, sadly, this is Stevie Wonder's Inner Visions. I like, especially Stevie Wonder's 4-album run in the 70s the most. But this has Higher Ground, among others. I know there's a lot of jazz and fusion and funk, of course, on this. But anyway, yeah, I got some friends outside cranking their stereo. It's always fun. Yeah, no, this is Higher Ground. All in Love is Fair. Too High. Living for the City. I mean, it's Stevie Wonder, and it's in his peak period. It came out in 70... I want to say 72 or 73. It doesn't... I don't even know what pressing this is. My wife has some of his others. I mean, Songs in the Key of Life, of course. I don't have like a huge preference between all of those records he put out in the 70s, like early to mid 70s. I went to the library though and checked a bunch of them out. It tells the year on here, 73. So I got a bunch of records in the W's from 1973, 72 and 73. Like Wishbone Ashes, Argus came out in 72. But yeah, there's Song in the Key of Life, and then there's Talking Book, and then there's the other one that came from like a 4-year period he put out, or 3-year period, he put out like 4 albums, and all of them were excellent. All of them had a lot of jazz, a lot of funk, and they had their R&B, of course, too, and their pop element. It's Stevie Wonder. The man's a genius. So, anyway, that's it for the W's. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.